Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. It's your boy Mack, and today I am joined by Tony Pesta. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Doing great, man. It's an absolutely beautiful day here in Cleveland. I'm so thankful for having me on, man. So ready to talk about this.
You and me both, man. I think we were both mentioning before we went live here that this series was just full of so many damn emotions. It made you want to pull your hair out at times. It made you want to cry. It made you want to abandon all hope. And I'm glad that we don't have to do that, obviously. But I just have to ask right off the bat. A lot of people, man, a lot of people seem to be disrespecting this Orlando Magic team prior to this matchup. And I don't know about you, but they have earned my respect. What are your takeaway thoughts from the Orlando Magic based off this series?
Oh, definitely. I'm glad we started here because that's where I was going to start too. Is just shout out to Orlando, man. A great young team. Paolo Banchero, absolute breakout on the big stage. He was just a monster. We'll get to some of the defense that was played on him in the second half, I'm sure, but huge game from him. Huge series, really. The Magic in general, like, don't overlook this Orlando Magic team. Don't discredit them. I think even when the Cavs were losing, there was a lot of that the same old narrative of the Cavs don't want it bad enough. They're not playing hard enough. They're tough. They lack toughness. They're mentally weak. Like, no, that's a discredit to the Orlando Magic. Both of these teams fought like hell for 7 games. They were going blow for blow. So don't overlook this team. Don't discredit them. And don't overlook what the Cavs were able to do. I've even seen some people saying, oh, the Cavs should have won this in 5 or 6. Don't do that. Not only is this Magic team really good, Cavs are playing without Jarrett Allen for 3 games. They're playing without Dean Wade for the whole series. This was a big series for the Cavs, and they did it against a truly formidable opponent.
I mean, they have so much to be proud of over there. I don't think anybody really truly there was a handful of people in larger media that picked them to win this series. Shaq and Charles Barkley come to mind in that regard. But what I will say is this, man, they have earned my respect. They have earned my admiration
Absolutely.
because they have a bright future. If they can pull a few pieces together off the offseason, they have the money to do it. And they have some draft capital if they'd like to, along with some assets if they like to make a big time swing to to match Paolo up with another star. I like what I'm seeing over there, man. And they present some unique challenges with their size over there, with Paolo being 6'10, Franz is 6'10. You know, Jonathan Isaac has so much length to him, Wendell Carter Jr. There is just so much to be excited for if you're an Orlando Magic fan. In this series, they pushed the Cavs to the brink. Yes, we didn't have Dean. Yes, we didn't have Jarrett. That definitely played a role. But man, I liked what I saw out of them, and they could easily be a contender in the next couple of seasons if they continue their upward trajectory. And one of the things that I have to commend them on is Jamal Mosley, man. Jamal Mosley is the real deal as a head coach. Conversely, do have to flip the script. JB Bickerstaff, you already knew I was going to go here, bro. You already knew I was going to go here. But prior to today, prior to the matchup, I had tweeted out this could potentially be his last game as head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I'm sure that had the buzzer rang and the Cavaliers lost this game, that he would be the first person shipped out. But for now, he has earned himself 4 more shots to keep this thing rolling. Thoughts on JB Bickerstaff's overall coaching in this series?
Yeah, man, I'm with you. There was a moment at halftime of this game where I was wondering if him and JJ Redick, they could just swap places right then and there. JB could start announcing the game. But no, I mean, look, there were some rough moments for JB in this series. I think game 6 was a low point for him, kind of going away from what worked in game 5 for no reason. George Niang, who I will say, I've been very tough on George Niang in this recent stretch, and he has been horrible on the basketball court. But I do just want to say, because every time you tweet something, like I tweet something negative about Niang, you see all the replies that take it a little too far. We don't got to do all that. We can keep it basketball. My problem with George Niang is just his production on the court. And my problem with JB mainly is that he kept going back to Niang and giving him this extended leash. We even saw him out there today, which they survived. So it's
Just
okay.
3
We move
minutes.
on.
Just 3 minutes at least.
Pulled him very quickly. I will
Uh,
give JB credit for not being afraid to pull Niang today, and even in game 6, pull Levert with how bad he was playing. But JB, it's very mixed bag in this series. First 2 games, I thought he was pushing all the right buttons. The next few, I thought he did the opposite. Game 7 for the most part, putting Merrill in there when they needed it. Playing LeVert the amount that he did. LeVert played 30 minutes tonight. It was clear that he had it going, so he stuck with him. Trying to find more good things to say about JB, because overall I think this was a rough series for him, but they got the job done. So I'll give him that.
I think that's fair. I think one of the things that I've seen just thrown about a lot over the course of this playoff series is the fact that the Cavaliers are winning in spite of JB, and I hate to agree with that at certain points, because we've seen Donovan Mitchell kind of step up and carry, and in a number of these games thus far. And while we finally got some contributions from the bench, right, and Isaac Okoro and Karis LeVert specifically, who only played 7 minutes in game 6 and then came back in game 7, was a real contributor and a real asset today. And that's in addition to, again, Isaac Okoro, who came in the second half of this one and just absolutely gave Paolo Banchero a tough time on the defensive side of the ball. But one of the guys who really stuck out to me over these last 3 or so has been Mack Strus. Talk to me a little bit about the movement shooting that he brings to the table, because we know that's essentially, he was signed for this type of situation.
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing that I love about Mack Strus, even with the struggles that he had in this series, is that he's a guy who doesn't spiral when his shot isn't falling. He will find other ways to make an impact. He found other ways to be effective, whether it's defense, trying to use his gravity to get some attention on him, handling the ball at times, getting rebounds. But at the end of the day, you said it. He was brought here to do one thing, which is shoot the ball. And the good thing about Mack Strus is he has the mental toughness to go shoot 20% or whatever he was shooting in this series, and then hit a couple big shots in a game 7, to have the confidence in himself, to have the short-term memory loss, to be like, I don't care if I miss the last 12 shots. I'm pulling it if I get even an ounce of daylight. And that made all the difference in the world, because, again, he is the type of player who can get hot in a hurry, and we saw that in this game. I think he finished with 13 points. I can double-check that real quick.
Yeah, he did. 13 points.
Yeah, 13.
6 from the.
Yeah. Yep. And they needed basically every single one of them, because it came at a pivotal moment in the game when they were really stealing momentum back from Orlando after, by the way, biggest comeback in game 7 history, down 18 for a team that gets called mentally weak and all that. And sure, there have been times where they look rattled. You got to give them credit where it's due. 18-point comeback in game 7. They looked dead in the water, and they found a way to come back. And a big reason for that is Mack Strus not spiraling out of control when his shot isn't falling, not losing confidence, still being that lethal shooter that we know he can be, and we saw it when they needed it most.
3 early fouls. I was getting a little bit worried there, because some of them, that third one was a little, it was a little much in my opinion. I don't feel like it was a foul, an offensive foul rather. But yeah, he always finds ways to contribute outside of movement shooting. But we know that's essentially why he was brought in. Came in to today's game shooting 28% or so from 3-point distance, and today he was able to go out there and knock down, if I'm not mistaken, 3 of 6, and they always just felt timely. We know, coming from the Miami Heat organization, he kind of garnered the reputation of just being kind of a system player, but I have enjoyed the maturation of his game, because I feel like I use the term movement shooter with him, but we have found out over the course of the season that he is so much more than that. And I mean, really, if you just paid attention to that last game of the regular season against Charlotte, in which he finished with a triple-double, if I'm not mistaken, you will have seen that. But he is one of the guys that has to continue to do this consistently in order for this team to have any shot at beating Boston. But before we get to the Boston of it all, I have to ask you this, man. Donovan Mitchell, this dude has been a flat out just superstar when you needed him to. He took over down the stretch in game 6, despite the Cavaliers not able to get the job done in a 50-point effort. And then he does it again today, dropping 39. Is this a sustainable thing for the Cavaliers heading into this next series?
I wish I could tell you, because with the way he's playing, like these last 2 games, I'm watching him, and he's clearly not 100%. I don't even know if he's 50%. It looks like he's wearing flip-flops out there, because he just has no vertical athleticism. I don't know how he's getting around these players. He has Jalen Suggs guarding him. It's not like he's going against scrubs. He has some of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA defending him. And as you see in these clips, he's just shredding them. He's getting downhill. I think the fact that it's so strange that usually when someone's dealing with a knee injury, you'd think they'd be relying on their jump shot. He was relying on getting to the rim, and that was all he was doing, and they just could not stop him. I wish I could find more things to say about Donovan Mitchell because it was truly, he just left me speechless. We talked a lot about how the Cavs fans have been somewhat spoiled by watching LeBron James over the years. And while Donovan Mitchell is certainly not LeBron, these last 2 games, he might as well have been LeBron because he was doing unbelievable things on the court. We are so lucky to see a player like this. The way he just absolutely carried them when they needed him. Unbelievable performance.
I'm just looking at these clips, man, and I don't think have we seen Donovan Mitchell dunk over these last couple of games? I don't think we've seen it.
I don't think so.
It's just been straight knifing into the interior of the defense with some veteran savvy at this point. He counts as a veteran now, but with the elusiveness that he has with the basketball, a lot of hostage dribbles, a lot of left to right action. This dude, he's phenomenal out there, and I don't think it's sustainable. You obviously have to get more of a contribution out of your other backcourt mate in Darius Garland and along with a few others. But for now, he has been phenomenal in this first round series, and I think that was really big for him to go out there because I don't know if you've seen this, but there have been an uptick in the amount of doubters in regards to Donovan Mitchell even, and whether or not he deserves to be labeled a superstar.
Yeah, of all people to question, Donovan Mitchell, I'm glad that he was able to shut that up pretty quickly because, and I will say he was struggling early on in the series, but to think that he's already done this in the playoffs. This isn't like something new. He's shown that he can be a riser in the playoffs, so to see him deliver a quick reminder was great. And as far as it being sustainable, again, hey, obviously they need support, or he needs support. There's no way that they're going to go anywhere if it's just the Donovan Mitchell show all day, every day. But again, I'm watching him and I'm like, even when he scored 50 points, even when he had 39 tonight, or today, each time I'm like, there's no way he's going to finish that shot. And he finds a way to do it. So I guess I'll just say I'm going to have faith in Donovan Mitchell to find a way to continue to be impactful, even if he's going to need support at some point.
This dude has 89 points over the last 2 games combined, and he took 17 free throws today. And don't get me started on that because the game 6 free throw disparity was ridiculous in my opinion.
That was
nuts. We got the bulk of the calls tonight. At least the officiating felt like it was much more even keeled on the home court. But man, it was just a phenomenal game from him in all regards. I do want to ask you this. I have to touch on this real quick. Sam Merrill, moving forward into this Boston series, he played just, if I'm not mistaken, 11 minutes tonight. Is Sam Merrill still a situational type player? Because that's kind of what it felt like tonight. JB just deployed him in the second half when it felt like they had nothing else to turn to. Is he going to be a situational play coming into this round 2 matchup against Boston?
Yeah, it's tough because I would have had Sam in my rotation against Orlando, especially. Boston's a little different because I do think Boston is a team that can pick on Sam a lot more than the Magic were able to. I think Sam's he's not a great defender by any means, but I think he can hold his own. I don't think it's easy to pick on him, especially a team. And again, we gave Orlando a bunch of credit, so I'm not saying this as a knock or anything, but they're not a great offensive team. So if you have someone like Sam out there, he's not as vulnerable as if it's Jason Tatum getting him on a switch. If it's Jaylen Brown, even Jrue Holiday, Derek White, they have way too many guys who can go at him. So I am a little nervous about that. I still would like to see him get out there and play. The other aspect is Boston. They can switch everything, so it's going to be harder to get Sam going. Even when they played Boston earlier in the regular season, it was a rough matchup for him. So matchup-wise, this could be a difficult series to get Sam out there, but you got to go to him at certain points. We saw it tonight. I think he only hit 2 threes, but they were pivotal 3-pointers to help reclaim that momentum after being down 18 in the first halk.
He hit the first 3 of the game for the Cavs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think he did. And then he hit that pull-up bomb where the main thing that you have to focus on, you got to get Sam Merrill and Donovan Mitchell out there together because that was one of the best 1-2 punches we have seen from this Cavs team in the last 3 years.
In January, that was a large part of the run in January was the cohesiveness of those two. Donovan's ability to drive and kick out to Sam was just, you could just tell the connection was definitely there.
Yeah. And using him as a screener. There's so much pressure to make sure you're connected to Donovan Mitchell on a screen. But if you give Sam Merrill a little bit of daylight, we saw Mitchell can hit him. And again, if he has daylight, he can shoot it. He has a rapid fire release. He's a deadly shooter. And so that's a way that you could create some confusion, some mismatches for Boston. So I hope that JB gives him a little bit of an extended leash, because there's just so much value he can bring to the floor, and it's wasted if he's A, not on the court, and B, if he's not on the court next to Donovan Mitchell, because that's when you see the best come out of Sam.
I think there's nothing wrong with saying any of that. Sam Merrill, he is one of the NBA's best shooters. He is 40% plus from 3-point distance. If you go into the advanced analytics of it all, he grades very highly out there. But I mean, we got to call a spade a spade. Sometimes specific matchups do not favor you. And the Boston one will be one to keep an eye on. We know Jrue Holiday and Derek White and company. They have size for one, and two, they are all world defenders. Derek White in particular is probably going to be named to another all defensive team back to back. And that's going to be a tough matchup. And that kind of gives me a segue into my next topic here. One of the players who has kind of been up and down in this series on many levels, not even just from a scoring standpoint, has been Darius Garland. Darius Garland struggled at points today, my brother, but he showed up down the stretch when he needed him to. He made some plays, whether it be some of the inside scoring that he had or some of the feeds that he had to set some guys up out there. He would finish today with just 12 points and 4 assists on an atrocious 3 of 13 from the field. How do you get Darius Garland going? Is he just in his own head at this point?
It sounds simple to say, but I do think when we see Garland struggle the most, it's when it seems like he's in his own head. That first half, I don't remember if they turned it over or what exactly happened, but there's a play where he gets downhill, clearly has a floater, and he tries to lob it to Evan Mobley, and it's just not there. I don't remember if they turned it over, if Mobley kind of bobbled the catch or what happened, but that's an example of just overthinking it. You got to instill that confidence in him somehow. We saw it in the second half with Donovan Mitchell giving him that hug, even earlier in the game where they're on the sidelines and Mitchell is talking him up. Like, it's unfortunate that you need to do that for a player like Darius Garland, but I think a game like today could be I won't say could be, I think it is a big moment in his development, because it just showed him that, hey, I can show up when the team needs me most in the most pivotal moment that the Cavs have had in 3 years. He had a very bad first half. He struggled at times throughout this series, but he's also closed out game 5 and game 7. He closed out this game. That big steal he had on Jalen Suggs, going one-on-one, hitting a bucket after that. That three-pointer was obviously huge, and he has fought so hard defensively. That's another thing that I want to give him credit for. Fighting on the glass. He had a big rebound near the end of the game. Like, I know that DG at times has been too passive. He's been indecisive. He's turned it over. He's made a lot of costly mistakes throughout this season, but he has continued to fight through all of it. And he showed up in game 7. And I think you got to give him a lot of credit and hope that this is a big moment for his development. And against Boston, it's only going to get harder, because as we already said, you got Jrue Holiday out there, you got Derek White, you got all these switchable defenders. It's going to be more difficult than it was in Orlando, but hopefully DG can continue to fight, because that's what you need to see from him. You need to see him continue to fight and hopefully maintain that confidence to keep letting it fly.
I mean, yeah, if you look at the percentages of it all through this series, Darius Garland has been the Cavaliers' best shooter from 3-point distance. The thing that I have drawn ire with in regards to this series for him has been his lack of aggressiveness at times. Like, pull the trigger when you have the opportunity to, or take somebody off the dribble. We know that you are capable of doing so. For him, I do believe that much of his play, similar to how we talk about Isaac Okoro at times, is heavily tied to his confidence. And I do think a round 1 victory for him does pay dividends. You're going to have a tough matchup in round 2 against Boston. So you have an entirely different conversation to have in regards to that, because we hear people talk about the Cavaliers small backcourt all the live long day. So I'll be very interested to see how JB is able to kind of make up for that. But I got to admit, man, DG, he finally showed up when we needed him to. That was definitely a big game 7 for him down the stretch. One of the things I wanted to kind of ask you about is rotation heading into this Boston matchup, because as of right now, we still haven't really heard any news on Dean Wade, who really was missed in this series, by the way. And Jarrett Allen, right, with the rib contusion or pierced rib or whatever the hell they're reporting it as these days. Heading into round 2 with Boston, who is in your starting 5 in game 1? assuming we do not have Allen and Wade available.
I think it's got to be Okoro. And I know he has his limitations. I know he has his flaws, but let's talk about what he gave us today, because I think people still, and I tweeted this, so I don't want to just repeat my Twitter takes, but people still get so caught up on the fact that he was a top 5 pick. It's like, it's time to let that go. It's time to let go of those expectations, because the Cavs organization hasn't treated him like a top 5 pick for the last 3 years. He has not been playing that role. He is very clearly not that guy. So let's move on from it. Let it go. Let's look at the value that he actually does bring, because he's still a valuable player. He was completely outmatched against Banchero these last 2 games, giving up a huge size advantage. And even still, while Banchero got his numbers in both games, Okoro made it as difficult as he possibly could for him. And in that second half, that effort, that hustle, that toughness finally paid off, because Banchero finally started missing those big momentum shots, and it was because of Okoro. Okoro in this game maintained his aggressiveness on offense. I don't think he hit a 3, but he took a couple. He attacked off the dribble. We didn't get that record scratch moment that we saw in Game 6 where he's wide open and just doesn't take the shot.
Passes it. Yeah.
That's the worst of Okoro, but we didn't see that in Game 7. And so I think you got to start him, not only because of all the things I just mentioned, because of how hard he's going to fight, but as much as I do think Marcus Morris is a benefit to this team, continuity matters. They've barely played with Morris. I think starting Morris in Game 6 was a mistake, just because this team is really not familiar with him. He's a veteran who can plug and play and fit in, but they have so many reps with Okoro, and I think we saw that today. I think it did make a difference. Just being on a string defensively, playing with players that you're comfortable with. So I would start Okoro, but I'm going to be honest with you. I just hope Jarrett Allen's back. That's really all I got to say. I'm not feeling too confident with the way that it's been reported. I think sounds like it's maybe a little worse than they're letting on.
Yeah.
But I guess we're going to find out one way or another.
I mean, I just need one of those 2 guys to come back. I don't know what the hell's going on with Dean Wade. It would be nice to have some type of assurance, or, some type of information on him. But if we don't have Jarrett Allen available, Marcus Morris is really the next man up. And unfortunately, we may be getting some more Niang minutes if pressed even further. And that's no slight against you, George. You're my guy, but I got to call a spade a spade.
Hey, I mean, if he can start knocking down shots, at least you get to the point where you can put him out there. Because right now you haven't been able to put him out there, because you can't survive with him shooting. What, I don't even know what he shot. I don't even want to hear it because it's so bad. I know it was horrible.
I could look it up, but I don't even want to.
If he's doing that and giving you the defense that he gives you, it's like, it's over. I'm sorry. You just can't do it. So I think I would rather play Tristan in those spots probably, but you're going to have to, like, listen, Cavs fans, buckle up, because you're probably going to see Niang in the Boston series. You're just, and as much as I'm going to hate it, you kind of have to if you're JB. You have to give him a couple bursts out there, because you need his shooting. When you don't have Dean Wade, when you don't have other offensive options, you're going to have to take a chance on him, for better or worse. And so be ready for a couple George Niang stints, and hopefully we can get some bang bangs out of him.
It will happen. Yeah, there is no probably with JB's track record. We know it's going to happen.
He just can't quit Niang. He just can't quit him.
No,
he's got to go to him.
His energy can be infectious. When his shot isn't dropping, it can be god awful. The name that you mentioned that really stuck out to me from Game 7 today was Tristan Thompson. His minutes out there were highly impactful at times. It looked like Game 7 of the 2016 finals on some of those possessions where he was able to generate some offensive rebounds. Were you impressed with Tristan Thompson in this one? Do you feel like he could play a role potentially against Boston?
Definitely. I mean, I think one of the big difference makers we saw, and I know at the start I said I don't want to do the lazy narrative of like one team looking soft or anything, but there is an experience factor that comes into this. Tristan Thompson has been there in Game 7s against some pretty dang good teams. And I think when he was out there and the Cavs were starting to reclaim that momentum, I think it showed that Thompson had been there before. The energy that he gave to the Cavaliers and the way he kind of deflated the Magic, huge plays. He's just always been that guy who can come in and change the game with his hustle. And so Boston, again, gets a lot tougher. Boston can space you out in a way that Orlando wasn't able to. And so how much are you going to be able to rely on Tristan? Probably not as much, but listen, I don't think Tristan's lost a series to the Celtics yet. So Let's keep it going. Let's keep the trend going. The East still goes through Cleveland.
He's a good luck charm out there. One of the things that because he played a little bit in Game 6, if I'm not mistaken, that really stuck out to me, I think, was Richard Jefferson during the broadcast had made a little bit of a joke and said, even during your prime, you weren't able to do that.
Yeah.
Tristan, man, I was just such a low risk acquisition that has paid off at specific points this year.
Great
25 game suspension notwithstanding. But yes, I would have made that signing 10 out of 10 times again. Before we head out of here, man, one of the things that I just wanted to ask your opinion on, and it's a pretty general question. Is JB Bickerstaff's job done no matter what you see over this next second game series? Is there anything that this man can do to guarantee that he will be back?
I'm going to say no, which sounds very negative. I just don't really have faith.
The crowd was booing this man, bro.
Yeah,
the crowd was booing this man.
Listen, I'll say two things here, okay? I'll be negative, and then I'll try to end on some sort of optimistic take. Maybe not that optimistic. I don't know how optimistic I can get with JB
just keep
today,
it honest, bro. Just keep it honest.
He's ahead. Gone. I think he's gone 100%. The one shining thing that he has going for him still is the fact that this team didn't quit on him. They could have quit today. Absolutely could have quit on him.
Numerous times.
So the fact that he still has the team, he still has the players at least somewhat bought into him, that's good. It's not going to save his job, but at least he's not a lame duck at this point. At least they're not just completely sold out and the vibes are horrible. Clearly they still believe in him to some degree.
Right.
So that's good. But yeah, I don't see him making any, he would have to do something unbelievable to save
there
his
you go
job
right
at this
there.
Point.
This dude truly NPR says fire. We could win a championship and I still don't trust him. That says it all right there.
Even beating Boston, I don't see JB. I don't think it would be because JB did anything. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, but if they manage to beat Boston, which I'm not picking them to beat Boston, by the way, but if they did, it would be because the players went inferno. Maybe he'll prove me wrong again, but I don't see him making the adjustments that just get them over the top. And you know what? That's okay. Not every coach is a championship caliber coach. So
people give me a lot of shit for my defense of JB, but I've kind of stuck true to the idea that if he doesn't get you to the Eastern Conference Finals, at bare minimum, his job is gone. If I'm a betting man, and if I had to put money down, I'm not picking Cleveland to win this series, but they could very well surprise us. The one thing I will say is if they shoot the ball and if they get as much, if they do not get the bench production against Boston as they did against Orlando, they have no shot, period. And so I know a lot of people believe that either way you look at it, that's the silver lining. Like JB will be gone, and a lot of people will be excited about that. Yeah. Despite the Cavs losing, but no, I agree. I want to root for this man. I want him to have success. I like him as a coach, not necessarily as a coach, but I like him as a player. Jesus, I'm all over the place. I get
where you're going with it.
Yes, I like him as a person, but I would be lying to you if I told you that I felt like he could get us to where we ultimately want to get to. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being kind of like a Mark Jackson. I know a lot of people use this.
Yeah.
Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr, but time will tell, man. Hopefully this Cavaliers team is able to put up a good fight against Boston. I'm not going to wave the white flag just yet, but if you put a gun to my head, I'm certainly not picking Cleveland right now.
Yeah. I mean, the objective part of my brain is telling me it's probably Boston in 5, maybe 4, depending on how disastrous things go. But listen, this is why you avoided Philly in the first round, because you give yourself a chance. You're in the second round now. Is Boston, are you outmatched? Absolutely. But anything can happen. How many times have we seen upsets in the playoffs? This is why you have to take care of business in round 1. This is why you don't overlook what they just did in round 1, because now you're in a position where you feel like anything could happen if you're the Cavs. Ideally, I would be happy if they can get it to 6. If they can get it to 7, then anything really can happen. But if they can get it to 6, I would feel pretty damn good about that. I just want to see them be competitive, really, is what it comes down to. Even if Boston beats them in 5, I hope it's the type of series where the Cavs are doing everything they possibly can and Boston's just the better team, because they are. And that's okay. Listen, the Cavs, there's levels to this. The Cavs aren't quite at that level yet. They're trying to get there. Part of that process is going to be challenging a team like Boston. So hopefully they can push it to 6 and go from there.
I lied. I have one last question.
Okay, go ahead.
I always do this. Conversely to the JB stuff, we've heard a lot of people suggest that Donovan Mitchell is gone with anything less than Eastern Conference Finals. A loss in 5 to 6 games, you think that's enough to convince Donnie to stay?
That's tough. I think, first off, getting out of the first round was probably the bare minimum. If we would have lost today, especially after the way that he was playing, that would not bode well for his future in Cleveland. I don't think.
He would have been gone.
Yeah, and it's like you almost couldn't blame him at that point. I think the big question, it's not so much about how far they go at this point, but it's really how much does he trust the front office to retool the roster around him. I think they're going to make some changes this summer. JB, probably the first one to go. After that, you have Allen, Mobley, Garland, LeVert, other pieces that you can move. I'm not advocating for any specific trade, but there's going to be options on the table. And if Donovan Mitchell wants to be in Cleveland, does he trust the front office to make the right moves and build a contender around him? I think, again, it's important. He's not going to be a free agent this summer. It's just the contract extension talks. Now, he could absolutely ask to be traded this year, and if that's what he does, you have to trade him. You can't let him walk for nothing. But it comes down to his trust in the front office, I guess, because they can retool this roster basically any way he wants it. And yeah, I mean, I hope that today was a good step in the right direction, because if they would have lost, it would have been doomsday. The vibes would be completely different on this podcast right now.
They would. Somebody, literally a Magic fan, in my last post-game pod literally told me, like, if they lose, you're going to quit your podcast. I'm like, no,
I was already planning on shutting my phone off, throwing it into Lake Erie, doing whatever. I was not going to be looking at Twitter if they lost. When they were down 18, I was ready to send it in. I was like, I'm just going to enjoy my day. I'm not going to look at the Twitter feed.
Props to you for doing that, because I just steer in the opposite direction a lot of the time. I have to learn to just take myself out of it. I often see you say, I'm not going to let the Cavs ruin my day. I'm going to go read a book or something. Hopefully you finished. Hopefully you'll finish it soon. Such a great book.
Oh yeah, it is a great book, man. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, hopefully hopefully you're not afforded any more time to do that with the Cavaliers, going, not having to hit the reset button in a sense in the offseason. We get 4 more games at the very least to see what this team is made of. That said, Tony, man, thank you for coming on. I truly appreciate you hopping on last second.
Thanks for having me on.
No problem, man. Any last second thoughts on this Cavaliers team or this upcoming matchup?
Hey man, just enjoy the moment. Appreciate what this team was able to show us. Like you said, we get at least 4 more games of this. Who knows what the second round series is going to look like, but I know it's a quick turnaround to the Boston series. But everyone take a deep breath. Let's just enjoy the moment. They just showed us some serious stuff in round 1. Whether you're super happy with the way they looked or not, they got the job done. They had some big performances. Let's just enjoy this for a second. We can get to all the offseason discussions, the trades, the firing people. Let's just slow down a second here, okay? Let's just be happy for a second. We don't have many opportunities to be happy as Cleveland fans, so let's just enjoy it.
Hey, that part, definitely. As I always tell you guys, if you'd like to reach out, you know how you can. It's Cavalier_pod on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. And Jesus, I mess this up every single time, Tony. You know it. You know the drill. You guys know what I'm about to say. I will go ahead and plug it as I do every single episode. I just recently started a Patreon. If you feel compelled to, I would appreciate the support. If not, I'm still going to produce the content. I love the Cavaliers. Going to continue to do this all the live long day. That said, go Cavs. Have a good one.